In this short video, I'll talk about how to write a good lab report. When we mark the first assignment, we have identified some mistakes made by students in terms of report writing. Please keep this in your mind. Presenting your work is equally important, if not more, as doing the actual work. This video will not talk about the actual report content, but instead I will talk about how to answer a question in general and what is a good report format. The most general suggestion of report writing is to not let the reader or marker interpret the results for you. Depends on the question, you need to justify your results briefly or in detail in a way that the reader can understand you fully. Try not to leave any ambiguity where the reader needs to interpret or guess. I will explain this idea with two examples. Let's look at the first example. Question 1 asks to write a function to achieve certain task. A student with a good programming background may write a piece of code with great readability. However, if a student decided to simply paste a piece of code onto the report without explaining what is the algorithm and why doing so, the student may only get very few marks or even without mark. The reason is, no matter how high the readability of the code is, it is still hard to go through the code line by line and figure out the actual algorithm. The code is not considered as justification you provide for the question, but rather it is a supplemental material to make your explanation clearer. Let's look at how can we improve this answer. You can explain your algorithm with bullet points, ordered list, or pseudocode. If you're not confident about the clarity of your explanation, you can provide a piece of code that captures the essence of your algorithm. Remember, not all code are equally important. Depends on the question, you may also need to provide some analysis of your results. Let's look at the second example. Question 2 asks the student to compare the output from the same image filter with two different parameter settings. The student may think the picture is more than 1,000 words, results are showing in the picture and there is no need to explain them. By doing so, the student leaves the reader to interpret the results. People may interpret the result differently or even not bother doing so. In this case, the student will get very few marks or no mark. After all, it is the student's assignment, not others. Let's look at how can we improve the answer. Before starts, make sure images are labeled and have good captions. When answer the question, please reference the images. In the answer, firstly describe what each image shows, and then compare and justify the results. Another point I want to emphasize is description is not the same as justification. Description is describing what the result is and what you have done. Justification, on the other hand, is explaining what you have described. For most of the time, tutors are looking for justifications instead of descriptions. Again, please do not let the reader or marker interpret the results for you. If you only include code or images without explanation or justifications, you may lose most of the marks. People tend to buy good-looking pastries even though it might not taste as good. In the second part of this video, I will talk about what is a good lab report style. I give this analogy is not encouraging you to overlook the content but focusing on improving the format instead. My point is, a good style does help bringing out the key content. The ultimate guideline of a good lab report style is to not let your readers search for information. Keep everything they need in front of their eyes and make it apparent. Next, let's look at some examples. In the first example, I want to talk about the importance of labeling. When answer the question, the first thing to do is put down the question number. Then you can answer the question. If you want to write down an equation and it does not fit into the same line, write the equation close to the text and label it. Reference the equation number you gave. Figures and tables are the same. Label them, caption them, and reference them in the text. I want to talk more about how to draw a scientific graph. When drawing the graph, the curve itself does not represent anything until you put down necessary axis labels, captions, and necessary annotations. If there is other sets of data appearing in the same graph, make sure provide a legend to tell the reader the correspondence. And do not forget to give label caption to the figure. and reference the label when it is mentioned in the text. In the second example, I want to talk about keeping information compact. Let's look at one extreme case. In this case, the student writes all the text for all the questions in the first several pages and keep all other images equations in the remaining pages. The problem is, the reader has to turn the pages back and forth looking for information, during which process, the reader can get lost quite easily and eventually lose patience. The right way of organizing the content is to keep all the information compact and make them serve for the same purpose. Keep the equations and the figures close to the text. Try not to put them in the answer for other questions. Resize the image if it does not fit. Try to avoid situations like one image takes up the entire page. If you are worried about the resolution of the small image, try not to use screenshots, save the results directly instead. Answering questions straight to the point is a technique and a skill. It needs time and practice to master. Here's a quote. I made this one longer only because I do not have the leisure to make it shorter. Here I give one example from the report. This question asks to justify why medium filter performs better than Gaussian filter for pepper and salt noise. Some students write hundreds of words explaining. What could be done instead is say a medium filter has higher chance of replacing the value of the noisy pixel based on statistics from the neighborhood. However, Gaussian filter is a weighted average. The updated value still takes extreme intensity introduced by salt and pepper noise into account. You can always write the answer with bullet points if you like. The idea is to get to the point without extra words. Here I give some general suggestions. Please use consistent font size and font type. 12 New Times Roman is recommended. Secondly, please upload PDF, not other format. The point of using PDF is no one can accidentally change the format. Thirdly, if you are using Python, avoid upload IPython notebook or Jupyter notebook. It will require a special tool to open the file. Please submit normal.py files which can be opened by normal text editor. The last one is please upload a zip file. Zip is natively supported by Linux, macOS, and Windows. If you right-click the folder, you should be able to find an option to compress the file. By default, it is zip. If you are using RAR, we need to install third-party software to uncompress your file. This is the end of this video. Hopefully the content I've covered is useful for your report writing. Thanks for watching.